All right, let's talk about something that so many of us are feeling these days, brain fog. It's less of a clear-cut medical condition and more like a frustrating fact of modern life. Today, we're going to try to cut through that haze.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You walk into the kitchen with a clear purpose, a mission, and then poof, it's just gone. It's one of those moments that's kind of funny, kind of frustrating. But what happens when that fleeting confusion isn't so fleeting anymore? What if it starts to feel like your new normal?
This description from a patient just hits so hard. It really captures how unsettling this is. It's not just about forgetting your keys. It's a fundamental shift, this feeling of being mentally muffled, like you can't quite get a firm grip on your own thoughts.
And while we might call it brain fog in conversation, researchers actually have a much more clinical term for it: cognitive disability. And that word choice is important. It elevates it from just a vague feeling to a serious, measurable challenge with concentrating, with remembering things, and with making decisions.
So, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds like something that just happens as we get older. That's the conventional wisdom, right? Well, what if the data told a completely different story? A much more alarming one, frankly. Let's dig into the numbers.
Yeah, this isn't just about us complaining more on social media. A huge national analysis, we're talking data from over 4.5 million adults, has uncovered a pattern that is crystal clear and honestly pretty startling. And here it is. This is the headline. In just the last 10 years, the rate of this cognitive disability among younger adults, people aged 18 to 39, has doubled. Let that sink in. This isn't some tiny statistical blip. It's a massive increase, happening to people who should be in the absolute prime of their lives. This isn't an aging problem, it's a youth crisis.
But here's where it gets truly shocking. Look at this comparison. While that rate for younger adults absolutely skyrocketed, the rate for older adults, it held completely steady. It was flat. So this tells us it's not some universal decline in brain health. Something is specifically targeting the younger generation, something unique to our modern world.
So that data forces us to ask the big question. If it's not just about getting older, then what is going on? What are the modern culprits behind this surge? Well, the investigation points to a few key suspects.
Researchers really think it's a perfect storm of modern living. We're talking about chronic stress, the lingering effects of illnesses like long COVID, the fact that we're sitting down more and moving less, and of course, the constant nonstop digital bombardment from the screens we just can't seem to put away.
Now, all of those factors are playing a role, for sure. But there's one fundamental pillar of brain health that scientists are zeroing in on more and more because it's being eroded so badly, and that is sleep. The data on how a lack of sleep impacts our brain is just stunning.
Just look at this. This comes from a study on university students, and it is so revealing. It's not just that the sleep-deprived students score lower on memory tests. The really key thing here is the variance in their scores. They were all over the map. What this suggests is that poor sleep doesn't just make you a little duller, it makes your mind unstable, unreliable.
Okay, so the trend is definitely concerning. I get it. But the story does not end there. And this is the good news. Our brains are incredibly resilient. There are concrete, science-backed things we can do to fight back and build a stronger, sharper mind.
Really, the whole plan boils down to a few core ideas. First, you have to protect your foundation. That means getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Then it's about actively boosting your brain's resources, things like physical movement, which literally pumps more blood and oxygen to your brain and fueling it with the right kinds of foods. It's really about starting to treat your brain like the vital, precious organ it is.
And the reason these steps are so incredibly powerful comes down to this amazing biological superpower that our brains have. It's called neuroplasticity. Every time you get a good night's sleep, or learn a new language, or even just take a different route home, you are physically encouraging your brain to reorganize itself, to form stronger connections. This isn't just some nice self-help idea. It's a real structural change that you can influence with small, consistent habits.
But this isn't just about our own individual well-being. When you zoom out and look at the whole picture, this rising tide of brain fog starts to look like a much, much larger challenge.
We're not just talking about people feeling a bit off their game. Think about what this means on a larger scale. It's about lost productivity at work, it's about strained personal relationships, it's a huge burden on our healthcare systems. And that's exactly why experts are now calling this a significant global public health concern. It's something that impacts all of us.
So, we're left with this question. It is crystal clear that our brains are feeling the strain of modern life. These rising rates of brain fog, especially in young people, they're a huge warning sign. So the question really isn't if we need to change anymore. It's how are we going to adapt our lives, our habits, and our world to protect our single most vital organ.